Italy, a vast majority of banks have already moved into the blockchain technology. That means bankers now understand this technology has the potential to solve many problems, and that's why the new regulatory clarity becomes another huge milestone. Now that banks in US can hold crypto, they may be able to extend their service without using a third-party exchange, say USD to XRP and then to any other fiat around the world. And this one really adds oil onto it, because if we play this video, you will get one aspect which kind of add more and more gunpowder into this.
Found that actually the reforms appear to be working. So we see first and foremost that the banks are much better capitalized. They've built up significant loss-absorbing capacity, so-called TLAC or bail-in capital, over and above the capital requirements. And this just makes banks much more resilient. The evaluation doesn't look into the effects of the corona pandemic, but obviously this has also been very beneficial going into the current crisis, that there were bigger buffers in the banking system.
It means banks has a lot more capital at hand to manage crisis, and now they are allowed to hold crypto and provide crypto services to customers. So using crypto with new regulatory clarity, they can actually deal with their customers' requirement, and that is actually a huge deal. Remember, Brad tweeted this news with a boom. Now, this may be one of the reasons for that, and there may be additional reasons for that. Once we actually understand that, we'll actually describe and discuss through that. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. New money is pouring into the crypto market. If you remember, we actually said that same a week ago, showing that there is a potential chance that the market may go to the upside, right? When we discussed that a week ago, only a few XRP community members listened to it by now. And now, as digital asset investor is showing the same thing, majority of the XRP community member will be actually watching the same. And if you remember, we actually did a video a couple days back, say 3 days back, in which we actually discussed about XRP, how it was preparing to push the price up. We actually discussed about a 3-day chart, and at that time XRP's price was around 0.2, and we discussed about Ether price, which was around 282 at that 280 at that moment. And currently, you know that the price of XRP and Ether have actually moved to the upside. Now, we actually analyzed the technicals, and we were looking at the target prices. Say for example, for Ethereum, it was around $400 is the target for this break to the upside. And as XRP move to the upside, the next target or the heavy resistance line for XRP lies around 0.27, say 0.265. From that area, we can actually expect a bit of selling momentum to come in. On a daily chart, you can actually see that that level is not that critically far away from us. We can actually reach that in a couple of days or within a week. But it depends upon how the momentum changes and the news outbreaks actually affect us. Now, if we actually go back into the Twitter itself, we can actually see the evaluation, which is actually posted by Stidas. It was previously, highlighted back in 2018 by Susan. So in that one, it actually shows $6.37 to $32.91 as high estimates. So that's the dollar target for XRP. So which is, like 3,000% to around 15,000% in profit from the current price point. So what I can say about that is, but like I will actually argue that it was from back in 2018, and now with the fundamentals and regulations along with human psychology, it should be much higher than that. If you remember, we actually did one video, and it's actually I was actually surprised that that same video was kind of promoted by the digital crypto website. And here in the video, we actually discussed about a book showing this one, 2 strong upward and downward swings of the cycle. I'm covering in this book largely a result from a represent the psychological excess in action, meaning we are human beings, and when it is money and about profits, even if the price should only reach around 0.2, we went around 0.12 in this cycle, right? So say for the current scenario, if we are analyzing with the past, we can think about last time. If we were meant to go around $2.5, we actually went around $3.8. So that in percentage, if you are looking at that, there's a huge deviation from what is the expected targets, right? So when we actually talk about these targets, you also have to keep in mind we are changing in the market. A lot of newcomers are coming in, a lot of money is being poured in, and that this time is not only small money, it's actually giant smart money coming in. If you actually listen to this one, you'll get a bit more clarity about what they actually think about XRP. Now when we say that money is coming into the crypto market, that's not only for XRP, right? But when we concentrate on XRP, it's kind of, a bit, this video gives you a bit more clarity about that.
To me about Ripple was that it was created initially to serve a particular purpose, but has taken on a life of its own in some ways, and so is treated by some in the market in the same way as Bitcoin and Ether, even though I don't think it was, and again, people here can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it was initially intended to be treated that way. It was intended to serve a function in a system.
So with that, it is kind of clear that, XRP is taking a life of its own in one side in the trading markets. Whereas it was actually designed for solving payments issues in a network, right? And now that network is growing, and within the XRP ledger network, you can actually see a lot more use cases being built up, new institutions, as we covered in the last video, from RippleWorks, Ripple, Polysign, Zum. A lot of new institutions are being set up to utilize this asset. So one side you have the institutions and their business use cases, and the other side, like Bitcoin, like Ether and other crypto assets, we are actually seeing investors coming in, right? So once the SEC says what this token is, then the clarity will be there. Say if XRP is being considered as a crypto commodity, or a crypto asset like BTC or Ether, or it has utility, like say for example, the UK government actually accepted that as a utility token. If United States government is coming out and say the SEC is agreeing on that, then that will be a bit more clarity which is being provided. Why? Because at the same time, private sectors is being looked upon by the world to actually build upon the CBDC. Now when we talk about that, we actually went through a couple of documents, we discussed about that, and we understood that Bank of England, Bank of Japan and Sweden is actually working on that, right? And we went through their documents and understood that all of them has some kind of ties directly or indirectly with Ripple. Say they are working with Accenture is directly working with Ripple, or say Bank of England, they directly conducted the pilot projects with Ripple, right? And if you look at Japan, we already know the majority of banks in Japan is actually on XRP ledger, say on RippleNet, sorry about that, they are actually high on XRP. So when we actually understand that, the changes cannot be actually misunderstood. And when we actually look at this tweet from Michael, it also shows us that 85% of Italy's banks are high on R3 Coda. Now, yes, R3 Coda has different settlement mechanism, but the primary mechanism which is being considered by the institutions is XRP. So considering that one, in the same file, when we actually move to the downside, we actually get another news, which also is a new one showing that Bitcoin can be hitting new highs in 2020. So when we say that, keep in mind, it's not just Bitcoin which will be moving to that all-time highs. If it is moving like that, we can actually expect a lot more of different altcoins which has that potential, use cases, fundamentals, everything is getting stronger. So automatically they will also move to the upside. So when we actually look at the technical side, we'll understand much further into that. We'll actually discuss that by the end of the video. Whereas as the data suggests us, it will be everything going up together. When we previously discussed like that, a guy from Twitter, I actually forgot his name, he actually told, when the tide comes, every boat rise with that tide. So keep that in mind, because at the same time, investors tend to actually value an asset which has more and more use cases or underlying value in that. If we look at the intrinsic value sort of thing, which the value investors actually consider, Ripple's XRP has that much more, because it is providing a use case, it is providing a solution to a lot of pain points of the banks. Now this tweet from Matt is actually kind of adding more information into that. See, the digitization of everything. We were actually discussing about the digitization, tokenization from a time, right? From these long time, whenever we are looking into different documents, we actually understand that one by one everything is changing. And if you look, Central Bank of Brazil was actually talking about this thing, and it was actually highlighted by the CME Group. We know that CME Group is already working with Ripple, the company, and whenever we are going through different documents, say we always used to see the documents from IBM, Accenture, Citibank, Deloitte, and different providers, right? And we kind of get into a conclusion where we can understand that, like say the last meeting from Ripple executives with the Central Bank of Brazil and other things are kind of not dot connecting, but the reality which is happening behind the scenes, which will be evolving soon. And as the world is actually moving into this one, we can actually understand this is kind of going to explode, because this is another area where previously we used to have kind of say offshore areas where giant individuals with huge wealth kind of tend to move the asset, some of the asset into that place, just to avoid tax or that kind of issues. And now it is actually showing Cayman Islands offer digital asset investments. So that is kind of another area where you can actually look at, which is actually evolving. And when the new market cycle comes in and the price starts to push up, when the price, say for example, like for XRP, if we can see 0.3 level reached and moving to the upside with a bit more volume, then that's a sign of a new market cycle. And when investors tend to see these kind of market cycles, they actually come in and invest much more, because they actually understand that the valuation in dollar terms is going to appreciate. And anyway, the gold, silver, and other safe haven assets are moving up. And say if you're considering gold, it's already near to its all-time high. So if it's just breaking high, considering silver, the profit ratio would be less in gold. And considering that or comparing that with crypto, you have much more return on your investment usually in every market cycle here. But it depends upon which asset you choose to ride this race. Now, if you are choosing the right horse for this race, then you should not be actually missing out on that huge and massive gains. Now, this tweet from Fidelity Digital Assets shows one by one, step by step, the adoption rate is actually increasing. Now, here Christine from Fidelity Digital Assets is actually having a talk here. If you want to listen to that, tune into that, because that would be informational about the institutional side of how things are actually evolving. Now, this is from ISO 20022 thing. What you have to actually concentrate there is that we know that the transition from the current networks, current system standards towards ISO 20022 is being delayed by SWIFT. Now the question is how this is being digested or taken in by the banks themselves. So here it states, how should banks react to the postponement of ISO 222? This question is answered by DPS Groupie at the launch of its new format, payments between the lines. So you have to consider, when someone is postponing something, there are other solutions coming out. So automatically you understand, if they are rolling into this one, they are rolling into a messaging standard. I'm talking about SWIFT. So now they need a settlement asset. So they are actually piloting with R3. So automatically that gives them the ability to use a settlement asset and the messaging framework which they are coming up with. But if they are delaying it up to 2022 November, majority of the banks would be in by 2021 November. So we can actually expect, looking at the market cycle, that we are near there. Meaning, usually when a market cycle starts in, say, XRP or take Bitcoin, Ether, you can actually understand it usually takes around a year, nearby a year or just above that, to reach or complete that market cycle price appreciation. Not considering the depreciation area or the correction from that all-time highs, but towards the upside. So from now, if you actually look, it's kind of just 1 year, right, to reach that 2021 November. So if we have to reach an all-time high just before that, that means we should be entering into a new market cycle somewhere here, say in next 2 months, next 3 months. But that's just an expectation from my side, speculating based on the fundamentals what we see. But based on the charts, we can actually confirm that once we are entering into this territory on a daily chart, or when we look on a weekly chart, it should actually give us a symbol that we are moving to the upside. Right now, we actually have moved above the 20-day moving average and currently flirting with the 50-day moving average. So if we actually move above that 50-day moving average and the 20 crosses the 50, that will be kind of that bullish symbol on a weekly that we all should be taking care of. Now, this video gives you guys a bit more clear aspect about how the giant markets would be turning into the crypto area when we actually say that new money is coming in, when we actually highlight that demand for crypto is surging. This is what we are actually talking about. The change is actually here, and they are actually talking about this as investments perspective, considering its use cases. Say the distributed ledger technology is solving a lot of things, and when the digitized economy is moving into a tokenized economy where assets are being tokenized into a DLT infrastructure, you actually need something to move that value from one ledger to another. We always talk about that, right? This current market infrastructure of off-ledger trading is coming to an end soon, meaning when they are moving into a on-ledger transactions, they actually really need a settlement asset which can move without friction. So the chances are high for the utilization of XRP as an asset into this. And if we kind of the small money, not the smart money, understand this, the real smart money would be watching this 10 miles before what we are seeing, right? So in that aspect, they would be already accumulating, or actually completed their accumulating, waiting for a reaccumulation zone before the price actually breaks much higher. So as we kind of move into the fundamentals, end of the fundamentals, and moving before the technical analysis, this one from Rose on the Moon actually shows SBI Remit is actually showing a new type of corridor evolving from Japan and Thailand. So that remittance is used by SBI and it is through Ripple. So that actually gives one more reason for why this should actually move. The adoption rate is actually increasing one by one, step by step. But it's not like in one day it's gonna go to the all-time highs and burst into what Stedas was kind of highlighting. Like say we are gonna reach a new range of 6.37 or 32 in 1 day, 2 day. It's not gonna happen. Now, if people are only considering this aspect, it's cool considering where we are in the price now. Say we just go to XRP chart and zoom out to actually understand where that price point actually takes us. If you are measuring it from the current price point and reaching around that $32, you can actually see around 15,000% in profit. That's not a small thing. If you're looking at the traditional investor, you never get to reach there in this short time period, right? So even with that, what I would suggest is considering even from the start of this cycle here to the end of here, you can actually see around 70,000%. So that is kind of a quarter of that return on your investment. But as we are actually seeing new lows here, if you have your average somewhere near to that low, I would actually argue that the previous low was here. Say just a second, the previous low for XRP in last cycle was here, right? That double bottom, if you focus on here, you can see one bottom here and another bottom here. And if you have an average somewhere near here to the top, if you measure, it's 140,000%. So in this cycle, why am I talking about that? Because if you see that, you can see one bottom here and another bottom here. It's kind of similar, but it's rhyming itself. It's not repeating itself, it's rhyming itself. There was a top, then you had two bottoms, and you have that two bottoms here. And if you have your average somewhere near say 0.15, 0.16, you can expect 140,000 if it is repeating or rhyming what return on investment it actually gave last cycle. But based on the fundamentals we just talked about and we are discussing through all these documents, we may expect much more than that. And that is the area where I'm saying, if you are expecting this one, it's cool, it's okay, but do keep aside a bit, 10%, 20% of your portfolio aside for getting that big gains. Now these are also giant gains, but what I'm talking about is much more than these, in 3 digits. So just looking at the current scenario of XRP, say we zoom in, look at a 4-hour chart, and what we can see is that the price is actually bouncing or respecting the 20-day moving average. As we talked yesterday, when the price was moving to the downside, I was talking like if the price is being supported by the 20-day moving average or the 50-day moving average, it's kind of the confirmation like we are in a short-term uptrend. Now if we consider this was the previous high here and we broke above that, so we actually came back, retested that particular level, and now we are breaking this high too. So that's the kind of a sign that we are moving into a bullish zone. Now when we say that bullish zone, keep in mind that can be a bullish rally in a bearish trend, but when the market cycle finally changes, it usually changes like that. In a bearish trend, it kind of does that bullish rally, and then it makes or turns the entire cycle into a bullish one. So that's for XRP. And when you compare it with Ether, keep in mind we compared it 3 days back, 4 days back, and we also told it's kind of following the Ether's price move here, right? You can actually see when Ether was actually moving to the upside, way upside from that 20-day moving average. All the altcoins, majority of them were actually getting the same price action. Yes, I saw that XLM was going down when these guys were actually pumping to the upside, but there are some things, right, to consider, right? So when I say this, XLM maxis can actually be offended, but I'm sorry guys, but think they actually started a project, and in the midway they are saying no, we don't need this much supply. They are reducing their supply, burning it out. Why? If considering XRP, the creators actually created that much, and it is still there, and it was actually intended to be used as a reserve asset, and for that use case this much amount should be there. If that's now changing for XLM, the use cases are changing, they are changing their targets. That's actually cool. So now when we actually look at Ether on a 12-hour chart, we can actually see that it is bouncing way far from its 20-day moving average. So a pullback to the previous lows or the support areas can be actually looked upon before move up high. Say we actually broke this particular resistance here, which is around 280, and we haven't actually came back yet and retested that. But previously, keep in mind, when we were actually pumping to the upside last year like this, we moved kind of like this, say one leg, then another. So first, second, and third. So if you are looking at that, you can expect say 1, 2, and one more, which may actually take the price near to 400 430 area before that pullback. Meaning now it can actually pull back say 5 to 10%, but that usual 30 to 40% pullback may be coming after 400 420 reaching that 400 420 dollar mark for Ether. And that same for XRP. If you are looking at that, we can actually check around say $0.3 for that huge pullback, and 0.26 0.27 for intermediate type of pullbacks. If you actually received value from this interesting topic from the fundamental side and the technical side, do support the channel, hit that like button. If you are new here, please subscribe to the channel so that the channel can actually grow and reach out to more of our community members. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.